I take about 15 seconds looking through the resume. I don't look at it much. The only reason I scan through the resume is I just don't want somebody that bounced around every 2 months, because I don't even want to waste my time with them. As long as there's some tenure there, and I don't even care what experience, like we will literally hire somebody that has never professionally mowed before. We'll do bulk interviews. I will schedule 5 interviews at the same time. When these guys come to the door, they're looking around and saying, oh snap, a little bit competitive. I'm not the only one here for an interview, right? Half won't show up. From that half, 3 or 4 that really stand out, you would call those references, and from those 3 you might pick 1 or 2. All right, so today we have Kevin. Catch everybody up to speed of like where you're at in business, and then we can jump right into the Q&As and see how I can help.
Yeah, perfect. So my name is Kevin. I own Lawn Domination. I've been in business since 2020. Have had a rough few years. I've been trying to kind of build my business up, and I would eventually like to start multiple locations in the future. Currently, it's kind of stuck at around $100,000 mark in the business, which is kind of some of the issues I'm having right now, is trying to grow past that 100,000 mark and really kind of, I want to be a leader and help my guys and have employees and things like that, and be able to help them just kind of like how you and your business and stuff like that do. We primarily do mowing and fertilizing are our 2 primary things. We'll do a little bit of hedge trimming and pruning and things like that, but our main focus is definitely the mowing and fertilizing side of things.
Yeah.
And we do organic fertilizing. So most of our residential accounts we put on our organic plan. So that's our little niche that we have.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool to hear. So like, what do you think is the bottleneck? So you said that you started in 2020?
Yeah, so I started 2020. I was working for another company, just doing fertilizing lawn care, just to see if I even liked it or anything like that. So it's really been 3 years of full time, and then a couple of years of just part time, doing it on the weekends and things like that. So, but yeah, I think for me the bottleneck is just the sales, the marketing and sales. Putting your boots on the ground and going out and doing door hangers and doing the marketing things. I tried. The biggest thing that really was a hurdle for me last year for the 2024 season was I was trying to hit 300,000 was my goal, which I didn't even get close to. So that's my goal for this year is 300. So what the biggest thing is I'd be out in the field mowing, and then all of a sudden I had a part-time guy helping me. As soon as, I'd start to catch up, because some of our jobs are pretty big. We have acres and acres and acres of yards that we'll be mowing and fertilizing for. So as soon as I'd get caught up, I'd lose a guy. Then I would trying to find time to hire somebody else. And then I never had the time to be in the field for 40, 50 hours a week, do estimates and going to try to get more leads and trying to hire somebody. I felt like I was just kind of stuck. I couldn't get out of that. As soon as I'd hire somebody, they'd stay for like a month, and then they'd quit or not show up. That was kind of like the hardest thing.
Yeah, it is. I've been through that. It's tough, when you have work coming in, but you don't have a reliable guy yet. So, okay, so when you hire these people, what kind of like verification process are you doing? Is it kind of like, hey, who wants a job? Here you go. Here's the keys. Or like, are we doing in like somewhat of an interview, asking them questions, calling references, things like that?
Yeah. So most of them, the applicants I was getting were from Indeed, and I did a paid ad and tried to get some, and I would go through their resume, but I felt like a lot of them, some of them had experience, or they would say they had experience, but then I'd start talking to them, and then they were like, yeah, well, I mowed for my dad for 2 years, or I did this. I'm like, no, that's not professional experience, you guys. Because I was trying to find someone who I didn't have to spend a ton of time training up. But then I wasn't checking references, which is something I'm going to start doing this year. So that was kind of like, I was so desperate to try to find somebody, and then I'd find them, and then they'd leave. So I feel like finding good key players where I can focus on the sales, I think will let me get to my goal.
Yeah, I would say just get one step better, right? Like every year or not every year, but like each quarter, just try to get a little bit better. It's a long-term game, right? Like it's not like we got to hit a grand slam on day one. But I think if you if you implement that this spring of like actually doing reference checks, and like when you call them, you're like the investigator. Like you're trying to see if what this candidate or applicant said to you matches with what that reference is matching. So I kind of probe a little bit and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm calling about Kevin. He said that he used to work with you. What was his role? I already know what his role was because the applicant told me, but I want to make sure it's lining up with what the reference is saying. So you got to kind of go in with some kind of like investigation approach a little bit. But what I like to do, one of the best tactics that I like to do is call and I'm like, hey, you know, John, I'm doing a quick reference check. Do you have a minute? And they're like, yeah, great. Okay. This person's name is Kevin, and then I'll give the last name, right? And then I just stop and listen. If they're like, yeah, Kevin, what about him? I'm like, I don't know about that. Or if they're like, Kevin, dude, how is he, man? Like he was the awesome, like best employee. He like was super reliable. How's he doing? You know, I'm like, oh, okay. So there was a good exit, right? Like that's really important because otherwise, like you said, you're just going to spin your wheels. And it's really important at like 100,000 to like get somebody that you can actually trust. I still remember my first person that I could really, truly trust. His name was TJ. And he was actually, he was a Seattle Seahawks player during COVID.
Oh, that's
they
cool.
shut everything down. And so he was like, but he was the most reliable, communicative. And I was like, it shifted and changed my whole mindset. Cause I was like, I was hiring C and D players, maybe even F players realistically that I thought were like, oh, they're C and B players, but like they were more like D and F. But when I saw what a good employee looks like, I was like, oh snap, that's the new bar. I'm like, that's the new expectation. And if you're a little bit under that, I can maybe raise you and like coach you to get up there. But if you're like down here, I don't even like, I will, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how do you even like when you're searching through the resumes? Cause I want to build a process out of all of it too. So that way I can, boom, 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 when I'm trying to find some more people. Like, how do you start and get somebody, or how do you like go through that resume and be like, oh, they're going to be okay, decent. And then like, do you go through all the resumes and then say, okay, they have these qualifications, and then just start calling them all the, that's where I feel like I struggled with.
Yeah. So Kevin, what I will tell you is it is a numbers game, 1000%. To be honest, I take about 15 seconds looking through the resume.
Okay.
I don't look at it much. The only reason I scan through the resume is I just don't want somebody that bounced around every 2 months because I don't even want to waste my time with them. As long as there's some tenure there, and I don't even care what experience, like we will literally hire somebody that has never professionally mowed before. I don't care. As long as they have good integrity, they can show up, they can be reliable. And if they want to leave, they can give me a 2-week notice, like a decent person would.
Yeah. Cause we can always train them on everything.
Yeah. It's not rocket science to mow lawns. And so, it's a numbers game. It is, how do I book 15 to 20 interviews? Half won't show up. So they'll already disqualify themselves. From that half, there's typically 3 or 4 that really stand out. You're like, ooh, he was good. He was good. And then you would call those references. And from those 3, you might pick 1 or 2. But it's really a numbers game. And to get those 20 interviews on the schedule, you might have to do what we used to do is pre-screening phone questions where you ask them like maybe 4 or 5 questions, just to, like real quick, like 5-minute phone call. That's it. You don't want to waste your time a lot with these people because it's like they're probably just applying to everybody on Indeed. You know what I mean? So a lot of them, probably really only a quarter of them are like really serious, and you'll know who's serious and who shows up to the interview. And those are the people you want to spend a little bit more time on.
So should I call them first, do like a phone interview, and then after that, then do a in-person interview, or just go straight to in-person interview?
You could slice it up either way. I would say if time is a constraint, which for us it is, we'll do bulk interviews. I will schedule 5 interviews at the same time.
See, that's good because I remember one time I had, so-and-so at this time, and then 30 minutes later I had, or 20 minutes later I had this person, and then I'd be like waiting there half a day to try to get people to show up, and only like one person would show up.
Yeah.
And I'm wasting my whole day.
Yep. So you can bulk interview them. Hey, schedule them all on Saturday at 9 a.m., right? Or whatever your schedule is. And then guess what? If realistically what'll happen is 1, maybe 2 will show up. That's 9 out of 10 times. That's what happens. 1, maybe 2. And it's like, okay, cool. I'll do the interview.
And you do them both, and then you do them both at the same time.
I have before, or I'll keep one in one room and then I'll pull someone in the back, like depending on whatever your setup is. Or I have definitely done 3 interviews at once when I'm just like, and I'll just bounce the questions. Okay, we'll start with you first. Boom. And sometimes they copy each other.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's not perfect. But what I don't want is to schedule interviews every 30 minutes or an hour and then like the dude doesn't show up, because it's like you're taking away my focus on what I could be doing, right?
Yeah, and that's what happened. And then I got discouraged and didn't want to do more. And
yeah, your time is too valuable to waste it on somebody that's not interested in the position. So bulk, you could even schedule like 8 interviews at once. I mean, we do 5 because there are rare occasions where all 5 show up. But guess what? When these guys come to the door, guess what? They're looking around and saying, oh, snap, this is a little bit competitive. I'm not the only one here for an interview, right? So it kind of elevates
I like that too, because it elevates that for sure.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm going to have to try. I'll do that. Yeah, because I'm planning on hiring. My goal is to hire 2 people this year. So to hit the 300 to 350 range, I figure each person can do about 100, 150,000, per year. I'll be primarily doing the fertilizing and the sales. So their main thing will just be the mowing and pruning, things like that. Because I want to make sure I have enough work this spring rush to keep them busy. So if I can do the fertilizing, it will take me about a week and a half to get all my fertilization done for each round, because we use riding machines for the fertilization and weed control. So my thought was 2 guys, they can both be in the same truck doing the jobs together, trying to get as much done. We have bigger yards. I know you have some smaller, like 3,000 square feet yards. Most of ours are going to be closer to like 8 to 15,000 square feet. And then we'll get and we also do commercial accounts too. So we have some, 5-6 acre lots and stuff like that we handle. So that's why having 2 guys makes it, for me, a little bit better. Plus that way, if one guy doesn't show up for whatever reason during the day, or one guy quits, I still have a backup person.
Yeah.
And I can always go out if I needed to.
Yeah. I think you're thinking about it right too, as like you start to grow your business up until 100,000, you're basically doing everything, push mowing. To get to 300,000, you need to start to focus on other tasks, right? Like you can't be the one that's pushing the mower on every yard. And that to me is like one of the most basic tasks in a lawn company. Is like mowing, weed eating, edging, and blowing. Like that's the first thing we need to hand off to somebody and like put up. And if we can do that successfully, if we can do that with a good applicant that we do our due diligence on, there's nobody else to blame but ourselves if they leave in 2 weeks and don't give us a 2-week notice. It was our fault for hiring them. It was our fault for not vetting them properly. But if we can do that and we can get good, solid candidates, 1 or 2 guys in the truck, what that's going to do, Kevin, is that is going to think about all the time that you spend mowing. If you could have 1 guy or 2 that you trust, that you can literally be like, hey, you're gonna handle the mowing on these lawns, and I'm gonna be in the other truck, or whatever, that will free up your time so much to where that weed control you crank out in a week and a half, and then you got like 3 or 4 more weeks to guess what? Go sell.
Yep.
To get to 300,000. If you're stuck on the mower every day, all day, because you have so much churn, right? It's like a downward spiral. It's not good.
And that's exactly what happened. And that's why I wasn't able to do sales. I just got Google verified too. So I'm going to start doing Google local services and Google ads this year to help try to get some more leads with doing door hangers. I know I just watched your other video and you were talking about how much you guys spent on the EDDM. So I'm probably only going to do a little bit of that EDDM and do a lot more door hangers with the instant quote pricing on them for a lot of my marketing and going door to door and stuff like that, while the guys are out kind of doing the work and things like that. But one of the questions I kind of had about that is when to really even start the marketing, because I don't want to start too early, but I don't want to really start it too late either, kind of trying to find the right time to be able to go out and do that.
Do you know when the grass starts to come out of dormancy?
So typically it's late March, April, early April, kind of around that time. So I was thinking of kind of doing it right before it gets out, like maybe send out a little bit before it gets out of dormancy, but then I don't want to waste time and money if that's not going to be beneficial.
Yeah, I would start March 15th.
Okay.
2 weeks before the cutting season starts. If
2 weeks.
April 1st, if that's when like things start to come out and the grass starts to green up, the weather starts to get nice, 2 weeks before that, because you're going to have those go-getters of customers that like don't procrastinate and they want to, those are your best customers. Literally, those are your best customers. They are proactive. They don't wait until their bill needs to be paid to pay you. Like they'll pay you on time every time. They'll clean up the dog waste, like to make sure the gate's unlocked. Like those are the best customers that you get 2 weeks before everybody else starts to market. I would start 2 weeks before, start hitting like door hangers. For us is like the best return. EDDM at 100,000. I mean, you've been in the market for 4 years, so that'll probably help you. But door hangers is probably going to be your biggest bet because it's like a direct and it's like on their door. They have to physically like take it off and it's in their hand. You know what I mean? Like there's something very valuable about that. Do you have your trucks wrapped or vinyl stickers on it?
Yeah, I got them wrapped. I have both of them wrapped.
Perfect.
I haven't had a ton of good results with the wrap, but I know a lot of it is also just kind of redundancy and multiple different ways of showing them, with the door hangers versus with the wraps and stuff like that. And then plus I make sure all my guys always have, the sweatshirts, the shirts. I'm really big, like as far as marketing goes. So my buddy did all my design work. So he does all my door hangers. These are my winter ones that I have for like core aeration, liquid aeration. I'm going to be ordering the other ones here shortly because I'm trying to automate it too. So like if I cut with the door hangers, if someone gets it, they can scan the QR code, it'll go to a form, and from the form, it'll go straight into Copilot. So I'm really trying to make things more simple and kind of get a system. I want to get a system for everything, but I feel like if I get a system for everything, am I too early to be doing that when I'm only at 100,000?
I think so. I think you're better off just putting out more door hangers instead of sitting behind a computer and trying to build out the systems and automations. I got caught up in that a little bit around like 400 or 500K. And even at that stage, you really don't need a lot of systems. There's a few big systems that you need in your business. P4P, for sure.
Yep.
Card on file, a CRM, probably some kind of like estimate follow-up, 20 days to close.
Okay.
When you send the estimate and then like 2 days later, they get a text, hey, we sent you an estimate. We only have limited spots on our schedule, right? Maybe an email after that. I mean, outside of those big systems, everything else, until you get to probably like above 800K, pushing like 1 million, you don't you could get crazy with it with Zapier automations and the whole office back end stuff. But like right now, the number one thing that will move the needle forward is sales for you. And so a good exercise that I tell a lot of people that sometimes jump on the channel and stuff like that is ask yourself this question every day. How much time in your working hours did you spend selling jobs? If it's below 50% of your day, i.e. in an 8-hour working day, that's 4 hours, 4 hours on sales. If you're spending anything less than that, you're doing yourself and your business a disservice if your goal is to get out of the field one day, grow a business to 500,000, put a general manager in place, go to multiple locations. If that's your goal or something similar along those lines where you don't want to be the guy pushing the mower every day, and you're not spending at least 4 hours on sales, half of your day, it's not good.
That is good. So one of the other things I was going to ask you too is kind of going along with that stuff, because I've always been kind of thinking of how can I build it? How can I add systems to build it more? Is like, do you use a phone system or a phone calling company or anything like that? Or do you just have, because I feel like, I'm small enough where I can do that. But if I'm out in the field having to do some of the work part of the time and I get phone calls left and right, it just slows me down.
Yeah.
So much.
At your stage, so we have an office manager in-house. She works remote, but she's W-2, so she works like in-house on her team. And honestly, you probably don't even need that up until about 800,000.
Oh, okay.
So if the office or the phones are kind of bogging you down, which is normal, especially in the busy and the spring rush, probably at 100,000, like right now, you're probably not getting tons of calls, right? I would definitely look into getting set up with a answering service, even if they, at the very least, take the customer's name, phone number, email, and message, at the very least. And then every day when you get back, this is part of your sales process, because I'm asking you, like, how much percentage of your day are you spending on sales? When you get back from your route of spraying or doing door hangers, then you'll sit down at your email, and that call service will send you those 3, 4, 5, 7 leads that called that day. And that you pick up the phone and you call them, and you spend 30 to 45 minutes sending them an estimate, trying to get on the phone with them, selling, getting a couple more customers. At the end of each day, I would prioritize that, and that should be part of that 4-hour.
Okay, because I know I'm working on a instant quote through the website, so they'll have the regular, they can fill out the form, which would go straight to Copilot. But I'm also working on my guy who does all my design work, which I'm very fortunate. I take care of his yard. He takes care of all my branding and codes the website and does all that stuff for me. So I'm very fortunate. I didn't have to pay for that. He's going to be building one that'll be able to kind of similar to how Mike does his. I've seen some other ones too. So I'm going to be getting that done. So that'll be nice that I can focus on phone calls that are coming in or being out in the field doing the door hangers. So I'm kind of working on, since it's kind of our off season, we do snow, but since it's kind of, we don't get much snow here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it's kind of, when we get it, we're out, but most of the time we're just either working on equipment or doing stuff on the computer or whatever. But so that's what I'm trying to find things that I can do now to help the company once spring hits. So that way I can A, be more organized, B, spend less time so I can spend more time on the things I need to.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that we work on in the off season is like, number one, like check all the tires on the trucks, equipment maintenance, make sure all that's good. We order our marketing material, door hangers, all that stuff. At that point, we do sometimes build systems on the back end. Like right now, that's some of the stuff that I'm working on. But like for you, your system might be to get a phone service set up, an answering service set up, or something of that nature. That way when spring rush hits, you're not worried about that stuff when it's really busy. Bulk ordering product like oil for your mowers and string trimmer for the weed whackers and the weed eaters, like just bulk order that stuff. Like there should be no reason why we have to run to Home Depot or the lawn and power equipment store in spring rush. Like we should already have all that stuff on the shelf. Broken sprinkler heads, irrigation caps that get sucked up by the mower. All that stuff should be pre-ordered for the year.
Okay.
That way our time is spent on selling when it matters most. Because right now it doesn't. It's cold. People aren't thinking about that stuff a lot right now,
Yeah. Because I think it is so easy to just be like, oh, I'll do that later, or not do much during the day because I'm like, oh, this is, we're not mowing right now. But then as soon as I don't want to be kind of stuck with my pants down in a sort of way when, oh crap, now spring's here and we have to go out and I don't have anything ready. Like I still got to order shirts for the guys. I need to order more sweatshirts. I need to order the other door hangers, things like that. So then that's something that I can definitely do now while I can.
Yeah, those are great. Yep.
Because then, sorry for going back, but like on the hiring side, when do you think I should hire? Should I hire like early March to make sure that they're ready to go?
Yeah, I would say March 1st. That's when I would start. Why? Because by the time you get the the application up on Indeed, takes 20 minutes, right, to put the ad up. But then it's going to take a few days for applicants to trickle in. And then by the time you get them scheduled, you may get some scheduled that week. Probably not, though. Probably maybe the following week. And then from there, ideally, hopefully you've got, 10, 15, 20 interviews scheduled. But it's not going to hurt you. We have made our best hires a month before the growing season because no other lawn company, not a lot of them, are hiring at that time.
Okay, so try to get them before.
Yeah, and it's not just lawn companies, by the way, also. Pest control companies pet waste management companies like that scoop poop. Like all of these are like, a lot of these are seasonal services that when spring and it's warm out, all of a sudden everybody's outside and they're ready to spend money. It's not just the lawn care industry. If you can get ahead of that a month, and it's like, oh, Will, I can't afford to like pay them payroll. It's like, you can't afford not to, because if you wait too long, like the labor pool is not good, and you're gonna have to go through a lot more applicants. You're gonna waste a lot more time. I would rather get them in real early, even if it's a whole week and I got nothing for them to do. Guess what? Here's some door hangers. Go out and put them out. It's going to generate some leads, even though it's 2 weeks before the season, maybe 3 weeks before the season. It is not going to hurt anything at all.
So having them going out and doing door hangers would be great because we can get a lot more done. But during once I get them hired in and I start doing some training and the growing season continues, I want to do 5 rounds. And I kind of did them before, but I feel like, how often should you do that kind of stuff? Have them do those? Like, how often would I have them go back to the same houses around those houses to do them? Because I feel like I don't want to be too redundant to those other potentials. But
so our strategy this year, we're definitely going to canvas the entire service area at our second location. And if we have extra flyers, we'll do it again. Like we'll hit them twice. And then maybe 3 or 4 weeks behind, but at least like it's 2 touch points. I mean, definitely in the spring rush, I would focus on that, doing the 5 around and 9 around. But I mean, it depends on the stage of business you're in. Obviously, with you being at 100,000, like the only thing that everybody on this team should be focused on is selling more work. Like that is what's going to get us more work. That's going to get you guys more hours. That's going to get, us further down the road to reach the goals that we want to reach. And so I would say all spring rush for sure. Yeah. Like if you're in newer neighborhoods. Now, do they have to do that every single week? Probably not. But if there's a week that is a lighter load than the other, hey, we're doing door hangers for a few hours today. Keep them busy.
And then like even after spring rush, I can still have them continue on and do some of them here and there. But I feel like after spring rush, it's not as good of a return.
It's not, but it depends on where the business is at. It depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the season. So we don't do necessarily door hangers all year. We just don't. If the estimator has time, they'll definitely do 5 rounds, 9 rounds. Definitely spring rush is where it's like the sweet spot to do it. Midsummer to end of summer, we're not doing a ton of door hangers at that point, because like you said, the return on it, we might be better served sending out an upsell email to all of the leads we got in the spring rush instead of like doing 5 round door hangers.
Okay.
So like there's other sometimes things to be focusing on outside of the door hangers, but the door hangers will get you great return in the spring for sure.
Sweet. Yeah. I think that's all. Those are the main questions I had. But yeah, no, I feel like there's just so much. There
is. So, okay. So biggest thing is, I would say reference checks. That's number one. That must be done. Like must be done. Are you on P4P?
I was, and I'm not paying for it right now because I don't have any guys right now. So I kind of canceled it, but I'm going to be going back to that model.
Okay. What is the base pay you're paying people?
I was paying 15.
Okay. And what state are you in?
Indiana. So our minimum wage is the federal minimum wage over here. So which is like 7 or 8 or something like that. But most of the companies I know are paying like 13 to 15.
13 to 15. So I grew up in Illinois.
Okay.
And so I'm a little familiar with the Indiana market. I know it's a little bit better cost of living on that side and things like that. What is your hourly rate to the customers?
I try to do 90.
90. Okay. I personally, with those numbers, how are the P&Ls? Are you good with the numbers and like business is pretty healthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did we were like 30% this year.
And then when you had your guys on P4P, how much were they making per hour?
Well, that's the problem because my route was too spread out, so they weren't making great.
What mile radius do you have?
We have about 15 miles that we.
That's a lot. But
we're spread out too. So like Fort Wayne's pretty spread out. My shop's in Churubusco, which is a small town. So we kind of do the surrounding. It's a big like rectangle shaped that we do for our radius.
Let's do this. I'm going to share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see me? Can you see my screen? Okay. What is the city that you're in?
Churubusco, Churubusco.
Wow, that is a
It's a weird.
wild name.
Yep, it's a small town.
All right, let's pull it up on the maps here. We'll look at it together. Okay, so yeah, definitely more, I guess, rural is the word.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is pretty spread out. Okay, so you have a 15-mile radius here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't actually go too far north of Busco. I do more of the Fort Wayne. So to the left and to the right areas is what kind of our areas are.
Yeah. Do you know what the population is in this town?
I don't remember.
I don't know if it said it on here.
Busco's kind of a small town, but it's kind of where I grew. When I moved here, is kind of where we lived, so that's why I kept the business there. Because I have a building, which is nice, so I run the whole business out of like a 1,500 square feet building. So
Yeah.
I have the luxury that I own the building outright.
Yeah, this is a tough market because it's a lot of farm fields.
It is.
So
you're having to, like, if you go down more,
uh-huh.
there's Fort Wayne. So if you go down, you'll get more into like Fort Wayne area to the right a little bit. So you have all that in there. So I do a lot of the north side of Fort Wayne, which is the newer section too.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot more neighborhoods over here.
That's why it's such a big radius. It's hard to not be a big radius just because of how spread out everything is.
Yeah, dude, honestly, like I mean, I don't know what your situation is like living wise or if you like own a house here or something, but in a very weird way, if it were me and I needed this income and the goals that I had set, realistically in this market, as unfortunate as it might be, like I don't think you can really necessarily build. I mean, unless you start getting into like tree services or start adding on others to do like 5, 6, 7, 800K here.
Yeah.
Unless you start getting like pressure washing, you start like offering everything under the sun. You might be able to hit that.
You guys do 5 miles?
We do 7.
Okay.
But like, it depends. Like, okay, what you said your goal was did you want to do multi-locations or?
Eventually, yeah. That's why what I was thinking of doing was kind of like having a Fort Wayne location, and then to the left is Columbia City, another town over there, Columbia City.
Yep.
That one's that's a bigger sized town, and there's decent amount of work there too. So I was originally thinking of doing a Columbia City / Busco area and Fort Wayne area.
Okay. I think that would make a little bit of sense to me. Hold on, let's see. Measure. That would make sense to me that you can wrap these two together.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 10-mile radius, right? And then realistically, I think this is your spot over here, dude. Like to build, I mean, there's a lot going on over here. So, that's why I said I don't know what your living situation is like or if you have
We don't live in Busco. We live more north. It's about 15 minutes north of there.
Okay, so you're up here.
Yeah, I'm more up there. But we're in the country. But yeah, Fort Wayne market there's a lot of competition in Fort Wayne.
Yeah. And that's okay. You just do it better, right? Like you just figure out how to do it better.
Quality is my top core value.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking even up here you can maybe wrap these 3 together, I guess, or Waterloo.
Like what if I ran multiple locations out of, like, have a couple of trucks that just drive to Columbia City, and then have a few trucks go to Fort Wayne. Almost like having one location that they split off and go to those 2 areas, and that's all they do.
If you did that, I would get some kind of like storage unit in those cities, and have almost like satellite locations.
Okay.
Because
so have like the main hub in Busco, and then have like 2 small satellite places that way they're not having to drive there every day.
Yeah, that's the killer, is the drive time.
Mm-hmm. And that's what
it will crush all profits and everything. And that's probably why the P4P wasn't that great last year. So we actually just literally went through this. So our second location, we have our main location in Aubrey, and we bought a property out here, and we're like, oh, let's just have Salina park its trucks here, and then it can drive out to its territory. And the P4P was like not good on it at all. So what we did last year is after about 4 to 5 months of the P&Ls looking horrible and losing a lot of money, we went out there and got 2 storage units smack dab literally in the center of the territory.
Okay.
And so now all of a sudden our guys are making above 40 an hour on
Nice.
P4P. And so because they don't have a 30-minute drive out and a 30-minute drive back. And when you have 2 people in the vehicle, that's 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's an hour, 30 minutes each there, 30 minutes each back. So
Yep.
like that's 2 hours of waste that now gets replaced with production.
That alone would save me, heck, just I don't even know how much storage units are, but that alone would still probably be cheaper.
Yeah, 5 days a week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week. So think about and you may not get the whole 2 hours back of production because you might have a 5-minute drive.
But over a full season, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And
putting
the other thing, so you said that you charge $90 an hour. So like let's just say you even get half. Let's just say half of that back, which you should ideally get more. But we got 2 guys in the truck, and it's how far was the drive out to some of those other cities from
Fort Wayne and stuff? It takes us like 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, so let's call it 15 minutes. That's 2 guys is 30 minutes, right? There and back though. So that's a whole hour a day of waste that's wasted. So let's just say half of that you'll get back with more production. So 0.5 times 90, that's 45 minutes or not $45 per day that you'll get back. 5 days a week. That's $225, right? For the entire month, that's an extra $900. Not to mention all the wear and tear on the equipment, the fuel costs. Like we're just calculating labor right now. This is what you could replace that with production. And so even if the storage unit is $300 a month, like you're still winning by planting the satellite location and getting a storage unit out there.
But how would I kind of manage them? I'd have to almost go to those both those 2 locations or that location every day, wouldn't I?
I mean, wait, I'm sorry. What's the question?
So if I kept the Busco location as like the hub and had those storage unit areas there, would I have to drive? Because I don't want to have to hire a GM for those locations right now because I just wouldn't be able to afford that. So would I have to go to those locations every single morning and meet?
No, I don't. I've been at our second storage unit at that location probably 6 times in the last 8 months. Like I don't go out there. So what you can do is you would be more of like a back end admin to where you would be able to see if they're clocked in or not. And ideally, obviously, a phone call to them maybe morning of just to check in would be good. Like, hey, you guys need anything today? No, you're good. Okay, great. Give me a shout if you need anything, right? Like, but you could always go on P4P and see if they're actually clocked in for the day, and then that would tell you like who showed up and who didn't. Like you almost don't really even need to call, but as a good boss, yeah, you probably can call and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you have a general manager though that does that typically.
Yes.
But he doesn't go to the locations either.
He does. So we have 2 general managers. So they each show up at their location. But what you would want to do, so you said that you were paying your team members like $15 an hour. So what you can do is just create like a team lead role, pay $17. Still put them on P4P. Hey, you get a 2 bump increase. Why? Because I can count on you. I can rely on you, right? You're the one that's letting me know who's not showing up in the morning. You're not necessarily a manager, but you are the crew leader at that location. So I need you to make sure, like, if you guys are getting low on string trimmer or whatever. And again, you may need to, because you're not giving the full reins to them just yet. You still may want to check in with them once a week or show up on a Monday with them, right? Once a week or, Tuesday or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that would save you a lot of money. And it would teach you how to manage somebody without having to be there every day.
Be there. Okay.
And it's as simple as this. Look, we treat everybody here like adults. I expect you to be here on time every day. And if you can't do that, just tell me now, because it's just inevitable. You're probably not going to be here. And like, you just kind of have that nice but blunt conversation up front. It's like, look, I'm not going to micromanage you. I'll see on the dispatch board what jobs are getting done or not.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you'll know. You'll definitely know.
And then one last question about, would I have to, can I keep it as one LLC, or should I know that was something you've talked with Mike about, is having them as separate LLCs, but I don't see, it's still one business. That's what I don't.
I think for your area,
I don't.
that you're in Busco, like I think the constraint is the population along with the services you're offering. Like, do you want to add other services?
I will for winter. I'm going to be doing Christmas lights, and I'm going to be doing winter services, kind of like what you talked about, winter services, because that only doing snow is really kind of killing us because it's just too slow when we don't get much snow. So having the winter services, Christmas lights, stuff like that in the winter, but I didn't really want to add too many more services. I want to be specialized with the fertilization and the mowing.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me, especially if you're trying to build a business that one day runs without you with multi-locations. You got to keep things simple. If that's the case, that makes sense why Busco has not grown significantly for, a couple of years. Because it's because of the population and just the market out there. So we have to look at other options. That's why I was looking at Fort Wayne? Fort Wayne,
yep.
Yeah. Because that, at least, and I understand there's probably competition down there. That's normal. Anywhere you go, any larger city, there's going to be way more people mowing lawns, right? But how do we become the best in that market? You're not gonna be the best in the first 12 months. But over time, as long as you get better and better and better, even branding, your door hangers, your trucks, everybody's going to see that eventually over time, and eventually they'll are the top business in that market. So yeah, I think that's kind of hurting you a little bit. I'm looking at the map still, but even like Huntertown over there has more, like Windsor Woods, Allen, like that over there at least has more customers and clients that you can kind of tap into. As far as like opening up multiple businesses right now, I don't really think that makes sense because you're only doing 100K at that one location. Like, to go and start a whole nother separate business to like go out to Fort Wayne, I don't know if that really necessarily makes a lot of sense. In hindsight, like if it were me and I was starting the business, or if I was in your shoes, how crazy this would sound, I would probably figure out a way to hire somebody at Busco to run that location, and then I would go plant in Fort Wayne because that's where the population is and the people are. And you're supposed to be ideally the best salesman in your company because you own it. So I would be willing, if it were me, to bet on myself to open a storage unit out in Fort Wayne, and like literally a month from now, right before spring rush, I would hit the ground running with door hangers. Like, I would be willing to bet you could do 100,000 if you had the same right mindset as I, and like betting on yourself, be like, I'm going to do 100K in the city this year, at least, because I'm going to work my brains out. I'm going to sell 4 hours a day. That could happen in Fort Wayne. I don't think that's going to happen in Busco with that population, even if you maybe add to Columbia City. Like,
that's why we would spend 15 minutes every day just driving either to Columbia City, Huntertown. We were driving just to get to one section every single day.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, you're breaking it up. But yeah, still, that it's that drive time and the potential growth. Like, even if you hit all those houses with a door hanger in March, you might go up 15, 20, 25K. Like, I don't see it being a huge jump. Like, just in Busco. I'm talking just in Busco. I'm not talking the other cities.
Okay.
Right? Like, there's just not enough houses that I'm seeing.
There isn't. It's pretty slim.
Yeah. So like the
funny thing is, there's another lawn care company over there too.
In Busco. Which again, I wouldn't get too hung up on like competition, but I guess
I'm friends with him, so he helps me out, but
yeah, dude, if it were me, I would go plant in Fort Wayne. And like, here, I'll give you this, man. There's a lot going around Fort Wayne. Shoot, you could even break that up into two. I'd probably keep it one. I would keep it one. You have a good 10-mile radius there. You could definitely build probably $1 million business in Fort Wayne.
And then Columbia City, Busco, B1.
Yeah, and that's probably what I would do. And realistically, the reason I would do that, it's almost like you're abandoning ship, but you're not abandoning ship because you're going to go start the location down in Fort Wayne, ideally. You could keep it all as one and then separate it down the road. But like Columbia City and Busco, you can probably wrap into one. But again, even Columbia City, like, I mean, there's some neighborhoods out there. There's a handful of them, but outside of that, it's all farm field. So
we'll get occasionally, we'll get some of those customers that are just like near the farm areas that want us to mow, but those are harder to get because you can't just walk into their drive. You know, they have that long driveway just to get up to their properties.
Yeah. If it were me, I'd probably combine those two into one, and then I would hire somebody, hopefully that you can count on, you can trust to kind of take over that, and I would pay them well. Because what it's going to do is going to free up your time. It's going to free up your time. And maybe you still do the weed control for them once a week. There's a hybrid. You don't have to kind of slice it down the middle and be like, you know, I'm not going to help them out. Like you could juggle both. I did both. I started the second location 1 day a week in our first year, only on Friday. And if there was a complaint from a customer, great. We'll be there next week on Friday. I'm not out there anytime sooner. Just is what it is. But what happened is we got, 10, 15, 20 customers out there and a decent base for us to hit the ground running. And last year we were up to, I think, like 70 customers, in that area. So yeah, I just think it's the market. I don't think it's you necessarily. I think it's the market and the opportunity out there.
Okay.
Unless you want to open it up to more services, which you don't want to, which is smart.
I prefer not to.
Yeah.
There's just more liability too, the more services you add. And I'm really good with what we currently do. So
absolutely.
And since we do organic fertilizing for all our residential accounts, it's a specialty thing that we do that none of the other companies do around here. So that is a really big seller for a lot of the guys and a lot of the customers.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I've got probably like 2 or 3 more minutes left here, Kevin. So is there any like other maybe pressing questions or anything else I can help you out with that you can think of?
Not that I can think of right now. It was really, really informative. Thank you so much for helping with everything today and being available.
Yeah.
I was so excited this week. I was like, I get to be on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably not the best thing you want to hear of like, hey, abandon the ship and go start one. but like seriously, I'm telling you because I care about you and I'm trying to give you the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts a little bit. Yeah. Maybe it's not hurting. Maybe just like, yeah, he's probably right. I need to go do that. But like, so the last 4 years, right, 100,000 in that area. I think there's just a lot of drive time. I don't think there's a lot of opportunity out there with the market and everything. I think if you spent your time and energy in a more populated area down there, I really believe that you could triple that business within 3 years. Like, I really believe, like, diligently being like, to where when you reach out to me 2 to 3 years from now, you're like, hey, well, we just did 350 in 1 year. You did triple the amount you did in the last 3 to 4 years. And I think the only thing is just the population and the opportunity out there. So I'm really familiar with that, man. It's all farm. It's a lot of farm fields out there.
Well, I'm going to have to do it in 2 years. I'll have to do another call with you in a couple of years and prove to you and prove to myself that I can do it. So just putting in the work, even as stressful as it can be sometimes.
Yeah. And like, last thing I'll say about this, at 100,000, ideally you could plug somebody in that business like you would if you were a solo operator, and they could do 125 to 150 by themselves. Seriously. And you pay them well. Pay them 17, 18, pay them 20 an hour to free up your time so you don't have to get like sucked into the weed control over there or now you'll be accessible by phone as a coach to coach them, and you're going to train them for a few weeks to maybe a month of like doing the handoff. But if you really pay somebody well and you get a really good applicant that you can count on, I'm telling you, and then you go over to Fort Wayne and really, really build that up, like, and then that guy gets paid well, you might be able to pull some profit distributions off of that. I think that might be the move.
Okay.
So you got this, man.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, let me know if you need anything. But yeah, thank you so much for jumping on, and you got this, man.
And thank you for your service too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
You too, bud. Thank you.
I'll see ya.